1. Let me tell you about this absolute gem I just spotted on Craigslist. A 1985 Chrysler LeBaron convertible that's got me seriously excited. This blue beauty is up for grabs at $8,200, and let me tell you, it's a steal for what you're getting. With only 110,000 miles on the odometer, this LeBaron has plenty of life left in it. Now, I know what you're thinking. An 85 LeBaron? But trust me, this isn't your average 80s ride. The original owner treated this car like royalty, using it as his retirement car and babying it like you wouldn't believe. We're talking no rain, no snow, and only top-down cruising on overcast days to keep that interior pristine. Speaking of the interior, you've got to see it to believe it. The condition is seriously impressive for a car of this age. Under the hood, you've got a peppy 4-cylinder engine paired with an automatic transmission, making for a smooth, easy drive. And with front-wheel drive, you're set for some fun cruising. The current seller had to practically promise their firstborn to get their hands on this car. The original owner was that picky about who'd take care of his baby. They even had to trailer it home to prove their dedication. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, it's not perfect. It's a 38-year-old car after all. But for its age, it's in remarkably good condition. The clean title is just the cherry on top of this classic convertible sundae. If you're in the Yakima area and have the cash ready, I'd say jump on this opportunity. Just remember, the seller wants an in-person, cash deal. And who knows? You might just be cruising down the street in this slice of American automotive history before you know it. Trust me, this LeBaron is the real deal, and I'm genuinely excited about it. 2. Let me tell you about this absolute stunner I've just spotted on Craigslist, a 1963 Chevrolet Corvair convertible that's got me seriously excited. This ember red beauty is up for grabs at $14,500, and let me tell you, it's a jaw-dropper. Now, I know what you're thinking, a 63 Corvair? Wasn't that the car Ralph Nader had a beef with? But trust me, this isn't your average Corvair. This baby has been given some serious TLC over the past 6 years, and it shows. First off, let's talk about that engine. It's been fully rebuilt by Mike's Corvair Parts, including remanufactured heads by Engine Machine Services. We're talking a $6,500 investment right there. And it's not just any engine. It's the correct 102 HP power plant, mated to a smooth-shifting 2-speed Power Glide automatic. The exterior is where this Corvair really shines, literally. That ember red paint job is base coat tucked clear coat, and while it's got a few touched-up chips, it's still looking mighty fine after 6+ years. And check out that new Clark's convertible top, perfect for those sunny summer cruises. Step inside, and you're greeted by a brand new custom interior that'll make you feel like you've stepped back in time to 1963. New door panels, new upholstery, the works. But wait, there's more. New brakes, including a master cylinder, rebuilt 65 carburetors, the best ones, folks, Pertronix ignition, upgraded alternator. The list goes on and on. This Corvair has had over $18,000 worth of work done in recent years. Now I've got to be straight with you. The odometer's broken, so we can't be sure of the exact mileage. But with all this work done, does it really matter? If you're in the market for a classic convertible that'll turn heads and bring a smile to your face every time you fire it up, this Corvair is the real deal. 3. I've got to tell you about this 1967 Mercury Comet I just spotted on Craigslist. Now I'm going to be straight with you. This isn't a showroom-ready beauty, but at $4,800, it's got potential written all over it. Let's start with the good stuff. This Comet's packing a 289 V8 under the hood, paired with an automatic transmission. That's a solid powertrain combo that could really sing with some TLC. The body's looking pretty good too. The seller says there's minimal rust, which is always a plus for a car of this vintage. Now I've got to be honest with you, this Comet's been catching some Z's for a few years, and it shows. The seller's upfront about it not being drivable at the moment. The brakes are sticky, there's a lifter that's not playing nice, and it's going to need a good once-over to get roadworthy again. But here's the thing, that's not necessarily a deal-breaker for the right buyer. This Comet could be a fantastic restoration project. It's got good bones, and with some elbow grease and mechanical know-how, you could have a real head-turner on your hands. The odometer's showing 75,000 miles, but it's rolled over, so take that with a grain of salt. On the plus side, it's got a clean title and a ratchet shifter, which could be fun once you get it running smoothly. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This Comet needs work. But for someone looking for a project car with tons of potential, this could be a great find. It's a solid starting point for a restoration, and let's face it, there's something special about bringing a classic back to life. So, if you're in the market for a project car and you've got a soft spot for these underappreciated Mercuries, this 67 Comet might just be your ticket. Just remember, you're buying potential here, not perfection. But man, get this baby purring again, and you'll have a sweet piece of American automotive history on your hands. 4. I've got a real treat for you today. A 1969 Mercury Marauder that's just popped up on Craigslist for $7,500. Now let me be straight with you. This isn't a pristine show car, but it's got character and potential in spades. This big bad Marauder is packing a 390 cubic inch V8 with a 2-barrel carb, mated to a C6 automatic transmission. And get this, it's got a 9-inch rear end with 3.08 gears, which is a great setup for cruising. Now I've got to be honest, the seller's upfront about this being a fair condition car. It's got some rust, and the suspension and brake lines are showing their age. But here's the kicker. It's an unrestored survivor. That means you're looking at a piece of automotive history in its original form. The odometer's showing 113,000 miles, but don't let that scare you. These old Mercs were built to last, and this one's still running and driving. The seller's been using it for short cruises, which is a good sign. One of the coolest features? Those hideaway headlight doors are still working, and so is the heat and defrost, always a plus in an older car. The seller's put some work into it recently too. We're talking a new gas tank, rebuilt carb, new wheels, starter, water pump, and a bunch of ignition components. They've even upgraded to a braided fuel line with AN fittings and a Russell filter. That's good stuff, folks. Look, I'm not going to lie, this Marauder needs some love. But for the right person, this could be an awesome project car or a unique daily driver with some work. It's got a clean title, and it's a solid, accident-free car that's just begging for someone to unleash its potential. So, if you're in the market for a classic American muscle car with tons of character and don't mind putting in some elbow grease, this 69 Marauder could be your ticket to cool. Just remember, you're buying a project here, not a finished product. But man, get this baby sorted out, and you'll have one of the coolest, most underappreciated muscle cars on the road. 5. I've got something really special to share with you today. A 1963 Oldsmobile Dynamic 88 that's just hit the Craigslist market for $14,750. And let me tell you, this isn't your average old car. This is a time capsule on wheels. First off, let's talk about that mileage. This beauty has only 21,658 original miles on the clock. You read that right. This Olds has barely been broken in. It's like finding a brand new 60-year-old car. And that's not something you see every day. Under the hood, you've got the legendary 394 Rocket V8 engine. These power plants are known for their smooth power delivery and reliability, and according to the seller, this one's running beautifully. It starts every time and drives true and straight. Exactly what you want in a classic cruiser. The seller describes this Dynamic 88 as being in perfect shape, and given the low mileage and their enthusiasm, I'm inclined to believe them. The silver paint looks stunning in the photos, giving this big Olds a classy, timeless appeal. Now, I always aim to be honest with you folks, so I've got to say, I haven't seen this car in person. But if it's as good as described, this could be an incredible find for the right buyer. Cars in this condition, with such low mileage, are becoming increasingly rare. One thing to note, the price has been dropped substantially according to the seller. That suggests they're motivated to sell, which could be good news for potential buyers. Look, if you're in the market for a classic American cruiser that's been preserved better than most, this 63 Olds Dynamic 88 could be your ticket. It's got the style, the power, and the rarity factor that makes classic car enthusiasts weak in the knees. Just imagine cruising down the highway in this silver beauty, That rocket V8 humming along, turning heads wherever you go. It's not just a car, it's a rolling piece of American automotive history. And at this price, for a car in this condition, it could be a smart investment too. 6. I've got a real treat for you today. A 1983 Pontiac Trans Am that's not just any ordinary third-gen F-body, but a genuine NASCAR Daytona Pace Car edition. And get this, it's up for grabs on Craigslist for $9,900. Now, that's something to get excited about. Let me break it down for you. This white beauty is one of only 2,500 Daytona Pace Car editions produced in '83, making it a pretty rare bird. The seller's got a clean California title in hand, which is always a plus when dealing with classics. Now let's talk about condition. The seller describes it as good, and there are a few things that back that up. First off, those iconic Recaro seats have just been professionally reupholstered. That's a big deal, because finding good seats for these cars can be a real pain. Plus, it's got cold AC, a must-have for summer cruising. Speaking of cruising, this Trans Am comes with the classic T-tops, including vinyl covers. Nothing beats cruising down the highway with those tops off, letting the wind rush through your hair. The odometer shows just 45,000 miles, which is pretty low for a car of this age. It's still rolling on its original wheels, which is great for authenticity. And here's something that'll make the purist happy. It's got a manual transmission. That means you get to row your own gears and really feel connected to this piece of American muscle car history. Now, I've got to be straight with you. I haven't seen this car in person, so I can't vouch for every detail. But if it's as good as described, this could be a smart buy. The seller's right when they say these will be collector items soon. Heck, they already are in many circles. Located in Kelseyville, just above Napa, this Trans Am is ready for its next adventure. Whether you're looking for a fun weekend cruiser or a budding investment, this '83 Pace Car Edition checks a lot of boxes. 7. I've got a real gem to share with you today. A 1966 Ford Fairlane 500 that's just hit the Craigslist market for $6,250. And let me tell you, this isn't just any old Fairlane. This one's got some serious mojo. First off, let's talk about the heart of this beast. A 289 cubic inch V8 paired with a 2-speed automatic transmission. That's a classic Ford powertrain that's known for its reliability and smooth power delivery. And get this, the seller says it runs crazy great. Now that's something to get excited about. This Fairlane's got just 82,000 miles on the clock, which isn't bad at all for a car that's pushing 60 years old. But here's where it gets really interesting. The seller's put some serious work into this ride recently. We're talking a fresh paint job that's got this white beauty looking sharp. The front end and steering have just been rebuilt, which means this Fairlane should drive straight and true. They've also replaced a bunch of crucial components: new leaf springs, shocks, power steering pump, water pump, starter, and battery. That's a lot of new parts, folks. The interior's looking good too, with a nice blue color scheme and a fresh headliner. And check this out. It's rolling on centerline wheels with good rubber. That's a classic look that never goes out of style. Now, I always aim to be honest with you, so I've got to say, I haven't seen this car in person. But if it's as good as described, this could be a fantastic buy for someone looking for a classic cruiser that's ready to hit the road. One thing to note, it's a sedan, not a coupe. Some folks prefer the sportier look of the coupe, but personally, I think these four-door Fairlanes have a cool, understated charm. Look, if you're in the market for a classic American car that's got style, power, and has had a bunch of important work already done, this '66 Fairlane 500 could be your ticket. It's got that perfect blend of vintage cool and recent updates that make for a great weekend cruiser or even a fun daily driver. 8. I've got a real slice of American luxury to share with you today. A 1985 Lincoln Town car that's just hit the Craigslist market for $3,500. Now, I'm going to be straight with you. This isn't a showroom-perfect car, but it's got a story to tell and some serious potential. First off, let's talk about the history. This is a one-owner car, originally purchased in Virginia and babied through its life. It's spent time in sunny SoCal and has been garaged in Washington since 2019. That's a good sign for rust prevention, folks. Under the hood, you've got the original motor and transmission, both of which have never been opened up. That's 152,000 miles of original running gear. The seller says it doesn't burn oil, which is great news for a car of this vintage. However, there are some oil leaks from the usual suspects: rear main, valve cover, and oil pan. That's pretty typical for a car that hasn't been driven much lately. Now here's where it gets interesting. The suspension and brakes have been given some love recently. We're talking new brakes, shocks, and all worn suspension pieces replaced. That means this big Lincoln should float down the road just like it did back in '85. Cosmetically, the seller's honest about it needing some attention. The paint job from 15 years ago could use a refresh, but the body is straight and accident-free. The vinyl Landau roof is in great shape after being replaced with the last paint job. That's a key feature for these town cars. Inside, there are some items that need attention, but nothing that affects how it drives. The undercarriage is clean with no structural rot, always a concern with older cars. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This town car needs some TLC. But for $3,500, you're getting a solid, mechanically sound piece of American luxury with a known history. It's a great starting point for a restoration project or even just a cool daily driver with some character. 9. I've got a real project car to share with you today. A 1976 Chevrolet Camaro that's just hit the Craigslist market for $4,500. Now I'm going to be straight with you. This isn't a car you're going to drive home today, but for the right person, it could be a diamond in the rough. Let's start with the good stuff. This burgundy beauty is a classic second-gen Camaro, a body style that's been turning heads for decades. It's got that long, sleek profile that just screams 1970s cool. The odometer shows 120,047 miles, which isn't too bad for a car of this vintage. Now here's where it gets interesting and challenging. This Camaro's been sitting for many years, which means it's going to need some serious TLC. The seller's upfront about rust at the rear lower corner panels, which is something you'll need to address if you want to restore this baby. Under the hood, there's a newer engine installed. That could be a plus, depending on what it is and how it was done. However, and this is important, folks, it needs to be modified for smog, and it's currently being sold for off-road use only. That means you've got some work ahead of you if you want to make this street legal. But here's the kicker. It does run. That's a big deal for a project car. It means you've got a starting point, something you can work with. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This Camaro needs a lot of work. But for $4,500, you're getting a piece of American muscle car history with tons of potential. It's a great starting point for a restoration project, or even a fun off-road toy if that's your thing. So if you're handy with a wrench, have some patience, and dream of cruising in a classic Camaro, this could be your chance. Just remember, you're buying a project here, not a finished product. But man, get this baby sorted out, and you'll have one of the coolest cars on the block. Don't let the challenges scare you off. For the right enthusiast, this '76 Camaro could be the start of an amazing journey. Just imagine the satisfaction of bringing this classic back to life. So, if you've got the skills, the space, and the passion, this burgundy beauty might just be calling your name. 10. I've got a real gem to share with you today. A 1962 Dodge Lancer that's just hit the Craigslist market for $10,000. And let me tell you, this isn't your average early 60s compact. This one's got some serious work put into it. First off, let's talk about what makes the Lancer special. This was Dodge's answer to the Falcon and Corvair, and it's a car you don't see every day. This particular example is a red four-door sedan, which gives it a great classic look with a practical edge. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The seller has put some serious money and effort into this Lancer recently. We're talking a laundry list of new parts and upgrades: new radiator, brakes and drums, headlights, alternator, head gaskets, and tires. They've even had it professionally aligned. That's a lot of crucial work that you won't have to do. Under the hood, you've got the inline-six engine, which was known for its reliability. It's paired with an automatic transmission, making this a great classic cruiser. And the best part? The seller says it runs great. Music to any classic car lover's ears. Now, I always aim to be honest with you folks, so I've got to mention a couple of things. The odometer's broken, so we can't be sure of the exact mileage. The seller lists it at 50,000, but take that with a grain of salt. Also, while the condition is listed as good, remember that this is still a 60-year-old car. But here's the kicker. The seller mentions they've spent well over the asking price just on repairs. That means you're potentially getting a lot of value for your $10,000. It sounds like they've addressed a lot of the major issues that often plague cars of this vintage. Look, if you're in the market for a classic American compact that stands out from the crowd, this 62 Lancer could be your ticket. It's got style, it's got recent mechanical work, and it's ready for a new owner to enjoy. Just imagine cruising down the street in this red beauty, turning heads and sparking conversations wherever you go. It's not just a car, it's a rolling piece of American automotive history. And at this price, for a car with this much recent work, it could be a smart buy for the right enthusiast. 11. I've got something really special to share with you today. A 1965 Plymouth Belvedere 2 that's just hit the Craigslist market for $12,000. And let me tell you, this isn't your average mid-60s Plymouth. This one's got some serious muscle under the hood. First off, let's talk about what makes this Belvedere 2 special. It's a two-door model, which is always desirable for classic car fans. The white paint gives it a clean, classic look that never goes out of style. But the real story here is what's been done to this car recently. The seller has put some serious work into this Plymouth. We're talking all-new fuel tank, fuel and brake lines, exhaust system, and a disc brake conversion. That last bit is a big deal, folks. It means this classic has modern stopping power, which is always a good thing when you're dealing with big American iron. But wait, there's more. They've also done a complete front-end rebuild. That means this Belvedere should drive straight and true, just like it did back in '65. And here's the kicker. It's got a 410 wedge motor under the hood. That's a serious power plant that should make this Plymouth move like a scalded cat. The transmission is a 727, which is a bulletproof unit known for its durability. And with only 72,149 miles on the clock, this Belvedere has plenty of life left in it. Now, I always aim to be honest with you folks, so I've got to mention that while the condition is listed as good, remember that this is still a 58-year-old car. It's not going to be perfect, but it sounds like a lot of the major mechanical issues have been addressed. One thing that really stands out is that the seller has extensive paperwork and all the receipts for the work done. That's gold in the classic car world, folks. It means you know exactly what you're getting and what's been done to the car. Look, if you're in the market for a classic Mopar with some serious muscle and a lot of recent work, this '65 Belvedere 2 could be your ticket to ride. It's got style, it's got power, and it's had a bunch of important upgrades that make it more drivable in today's world. 12. I've got a real treat for you today. A 1964 Mercury Marauder that's just hit the Craigslist market for $6,500. Now, if you're a fan of big, bold American iron from the '60s, this one's gonna get your heart racing. Let's start with the heart of this beast, a 390 cubic inch V8 engine. The seller says it runs great, which is music to any gearhead's ears. This power plant was known for its smooth power delivery and torque, perfect for cruising down the highway in style. This Marauder comes with an automatic transmission and power steering, making it a breeze to drive despite its size. That's a big plus for anyone looking to actually use this classic, rather than just admire it in the garage. Now, I've got to be straight with you. The odometer's rolled over, so we don't know the true mileage. It's showing 10,000 miles, but that could mean 110,000 or even 210,000. But hey, that's par for the course with cars of this vintage. The seller describes the condition as good, which is promising. However, keep in mind that this is a 59-year-old car, so good is relative. You'll want to give it a thorough inspection in person to see exactly what you're dealing with. One big plus is that it's got current tags. That means it's been on the road recently, which is always a good sign for an older car. It suggests that it's been maintained and hasn't been sitting forgotten in a field somewhere. Look, for $6,500, you're getting a piece of Mercury history. The Marauder was Mercury's entry into the performance luxury market, and these cars have a real presence on the road. Just imagine cruising down the street in this big, beautiful machine, that 390 V8 rumbling under the hood. You'll be turning heads wherever you go. Now, I haven't seen this car in person, so I can't vouch for every detail. But if it's as good as described, this could be a fantastic opportunity for someone looking to get into the classic car scene without breaking the bank. 13. I've got a real gem to share with you today. A 1962 Ford Fairlane 500 that's just popped up on Craigslist for $2,500. Now, if you're a fan of early 60s American iron, this one's gonna make you sit up and take notice. First off, let's talk about what makes the 62 Fairlane special. This was the first year of the mid-size Fairlane, slotting between the compact Falcon and the full-size Galaxy. It's a car that really captures that early 60s style, not too big, not too small, just right. The seller describes this Fairlane as being in good running condition, which is always music to a classic car lover's ears. It's packing a V8 under the hood, paired with an automatic transmission. That's a combo that should make for smooth, effortless cruising. Now let's talk about the condition. The odometer shows 60,045 miles, which isn't bad at all for a car of this vintage. The body is white, which is a classic color that never goes out of style. The seller mentions they have new carpet to put in, which suggests they've been taking care of this old Ford. But here's where I've got to be straight with you folks. The description is pretty sparse. We don't know much about the car's history, what kind of work has been done, or what might need attention. At this price point, you'd want to give it a thorough inspection before pulling the trigger. That being said, if this Fairlane is as good as the brief description suggests, it could be a fantastic find. These cars have a great presence on the road, with their clean lines and just right proportions. And with the V8 under the hood, it should have plenty of get up and go. Just imagine cruising down the street in this white beauty, turning heads and sparking conversations wherever you go. It's not just a car, it's a rolling piece of American automotive history. So, if you're in the market for a classic Ford that stands out from the crowd of Mustangs and Galaxies, this 62 Fairlane 500 could be your ticket. It's got style, it's got power, and it sounds like it's ready to hit the road. 14. I've got something really special to share with you today. A 1969 Cadillac DeVille that's just hit the Craigslist market for $13,500. And let me tell you, this isn't your average 69 Caddy. This one's got some serious custom work that's gonna turn heads. First off, let's talk about what makes the 69 DeVille special. These cars were the epitome of American luxury in their day, with smooth, powerful engines and interiors that were like rolling living rooms. This particular DeVille is packing the legendary 425 cubic inch Cadillac V8 under that massive hood. That engine was known for its smooth power delivery and torque that could move mountains. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The seller mentions that this DeVille has a hydraulic setup with 2 pumps and 4 batteries. That's right, folks. This Caddy's got hydraulics. That means you can make this land yacht dance if you want to. It's a custom touch that adds a whole new dimension to this classic luxury car. The seller describes the car as solid, which is always good to hear when you're dealing with a 54-year-old vehicle. They also mention that the odometer shows 50,000 miles, but as always with classic cars, take that with a grain of salt. It could have rolled over once or twice. Now, I've got to be straight with you. The description is pretty brief, so there's a lot we don't know about this car. We don't have details on the condition of the interior, the paint, or any recent mechanical work. At this price point, you definitely want to give it a thorough inspection before making a decision. That being said, if this DeVille is as good as the brief description suggests, it could be a fantastic find for the right buyer. These cars have an incredible presence on the road, with their massive size and bold styling. And with the added hydraulics, you've got a classic that can really put on a show. Just imagine cruising down the street in this beast, that big Caddy V8 rumbling, and then hitting the switches to make it dance. You'll be the star of every car show and cruise night. So, if you're in the market for a classic Cadillac with a custom twist, this 69 DeVille could be your ticket to ride. It's got style, it's got power, and it's got some unique modifications that set it apart from the crowd. 15. I've got a real treat for you today. a 1957 Oldsmobile Super 88 that's just hit the Craigslist market for $14,000. And let me tell you, this isn't your average 50s cruiser. This is a piece of automotive history that's sure to make any classic car lover weak in the knees. First off, let's talk about what makes the 57 Super 88 special. This was the era when Oldsmobile was at the top of its game, and the Super 88 was their crown jewel. Under that massive hood, you've got the legendary 371 cubic inch rocket V8 engine. This power plant was a game changer in its day, pumping out a whopping 277 horsepower and 365 lb-ft of torque. That's serious muscle, even by today's standards. The seller describes this Olds as being in good condition, which is promising for a 66-year-old car. It's sporting a black paint job, which gives it a sleek, timeless look. The odometer shows 62,000 miles, but as always with classics, take that with a grain of salt. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. This Super 88 has been well maintained and features original parts. It's got power steering, which is a big plus for a car of this size, and the original factory radio is still in place. How cool is that? The interior is described as luxurious, with pristine original upholstery. Just imagine sinking into those plush bench seats, gripping that big steering wheel, and cruising down the highway in style. But here's the kicker. This Super 88 isn't just about looks. The seller mentions it drives as beautifully as it looks, which suggests they've kept up with the mechanical side of things too. Now, I've got to be straight with you. At $14,000, this isn't a cheap car. But for a well-maintained 57 Super 88, it could be a great deal. These cars have a huge presence on the road and at car shows, and they're only getting rarer. Just imagine pulling up to a cruise night in this black beauty, that rocket V8 rumbling, chrome gleaming under the lights. You'll be the star of the show, guaranteed. So, if you're in the market for a classic American luxury car with some serious performance credentials, this 57 Oldsmobile Super 88 could be your ticket to ride. It's got style, it's got power, and it sounds like it's ready to hit the road. 16. I've got a real gem to share with you today. A 1984 Cadillac Eldorado convertible that's just hit the Craigslist market for $14,500. And let me tell you, this isn't your average 80s caddy. This one's a true head-turner. First off, let's talk about what makes this Eldorado special. It's a convertible, which is rare for this generation of Eldorado. The seller describes it as very sharp and clean, and with only 47,000 miles on the odometer, it's practically a spring chicken for a car of this vintage. Under the hood, you've got the 4.1-liter V8 engine. Now, I've got to be honest with you, this engine had its issues back in the day, but if it's been well maintained, and it sounds like it has, it should provide a smooth, comfortable ride. The seller mentions it's a West Coast car that's never seen rain or snow. That's music to any classic car lover's ears because it means you're likely dealing with a rust-free body. And speaking of the body, it's painted in an eye-catching red that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The seller describes this Eldorado as a collector's showpiece and says everything works as it should. That's a big deal for a car that's pushing 40 years old. They also mention it's a conversation piece wherever they drive it, which isn't hard to believe. You don't see many 84 Eldorado convertibles on the road these days. But here's the kicker. This Caddy is front-wheel drive. That might surprise some folks, but Cadillac was actually ahead of the curve with FWD luxury cars. It makes for a unique driving experience in a classic car. Now, I haven't seen this car in person, so I can't vouch for every detail. But if it's as good as described, this could be a fantastic opportunity for someone looking to get into the classic car scene with something a little different. Just imagine cruising down the boulevard in this red beauty, top down, enjoying that classic Cadillac comfort. You'll be the star of every car show and cruise night. So, if you've been dreaming of owning a piece of 80s American luxury with a twist, this 84 Eldorado convertible could be your ticket to ride. It's got style, it's got rarity, and it sounds like it's ready to hit the road. 17. I've got a real treat for you today. A 1965 Ford Mustang Coupe that's just hit the Craigslist market for $14,700. And let me tell you, This isn't your average first-gen Stang. This one's got some history and some interesting upgrades. First off, let's talk about what makes this 65 Mustang special. It's been in the same family for over 45 years, which is pretty incredible. The seller describes it as mainly stock, but with some tasteful upgrades that make it more drivable in today's world. Under the hood, you've got the 200 cubic inch inline-six engine. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's not a V8. But hear me out. These six-cylinder Mustangs are becoming increasingly rare and desirable. Plus, this one's had the top end redone, and it's been upgraded with a Sniper EFI system, which should make it run like a dream. The body is painted in Rangoon red, a classic Mustang color that never goes out of style. The paint job is about 15 years old, so it might show some signs of age, but that just adds to the character. Inside, you've got new vinyl seats, which should look great and be comfortable for cruising. Now here's where it gets really interesting. This Mustang has seen some thoughtful upgrades over the years. We're talking about a Sniper distributor and CD box, a new gas tank with an in-tank fuel pump, 621 headers with an updated exhaust, and upgraded stereo speakers. These are all changes that make the car more reliable and enjoyable to drive without sacrificing its classic character. But I've got to be straight with you, it's not perfect. The passenger side exterior door handle is jammed, there's no music head unit included, and the floors have been patched rather than fully replaced. These are all fairly common issues with classic Mustangs, but there's something to keep in mind. Just imagine cruising down the street in this red beauty, that inline-six humming smoothly thanks to the modern EFI system. You'll be turning heads and sparking conversations wherever you go. 18. Let me tell you about this incredible 1949 Packard that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for just $7,195. This beauty is a real piece of automotive history, and I'm genuinely excited to share its story with you. This gorgeous green sedan has been lovingly cared for since 1968, when the current owner bought it from its first owner. It's a Montana car that's been garage kept for decades, which explains its amazing condition. With a clean title and only 44,164 miles on the odometer, though it's broken now, this Packard is a true time capsule. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine paired with a manual transmission and rear-wheel drive. The seller has already started a partial restoration, replacing front brake shoes, ignition wires, wheel cylinders, and rebuilding the master cylinder. They've also done a tune-up, replaced cooling hoses, the battery, and the fuel pump. Now, I've got to be honest with you. This Packard isn't perfect, but that's part of its charm. The interior is original, with the headliner and back seat in good condition, but there's some mohair damage on the driver's seat. The gas tank needs some attention, and the clutch disc is stuck to the flywheel. But here's the good news. There's no rust, the paint is good, and there are no dents. The chrome trim is in good condition, and all the glass and windows are functioning properly. This Packard is a real gem, and it comes with some great extras like a spare tire, 2 snow tires on rims, the original owner's manual jack, and some additional parts. It's the 50th anniversary model, which makes it even more special, especially considering the Packard plant in Detroit is being torn down this year. The current owner has had this beauty for 56 years and is only selling due to health reasons. They're hoping to see it back on the road again, which is a testament to how much they care about this car. If you're looking for a piece of automotive history that needs just a little TLC to be truly amazing, this 1949 Packard could be the perfect project for you. Don't miss out on this opportunity to own a classic piece of American engineering. 19. We're taking a look at a real gem on Craigslist, a 1971 Ford Thunderbird that's up for grabs at $7,500. This isn't just any T-Bird. We're talking about the rare Brougham package, and let me tell you, it's a sight to behold. This beauty is rocking its original matching color scheme, with a green exterior and that classic hopsack cloth interior. The seller's being straight with us. The exterior is in good shape overall, with the paint and that vinyl gator skin top looking particularly sharp. Now, I've got to be honest, it's not perfect. The front bumper's got a cut in the metal, and it's missing the rear valence component. But hey, that's part of the charm with these classics, right? Inside, you're looking at a mostly good condition interior. There are a few cracks in the dashboard and some tears in the headliner, but nothing major. And here's the kicker: no significant rust anywhere. That's a big win for a car of this vintage. Under the hood, you've got the beefy 429 CU Thunderjet engine, paired with a Holley Performance carburetor and a Flowmaster exhaust. The seller says it's running strong, and they've got the receipts to back up all the mechanical work. Plus, it's sitting on relatively new hand-coupe tires. Now I've got to level with you. The electrical system needs some attention. The taillights are good to go, but the turn signals are a bit finicky. The headlights work, but the high beams cause some flashing issues. Dashboard lights are working, but can be a bit temperamental, and the power windows are currently out of commission. But here's the thing. With a little TLC, this Thunderbird could be a real showstopper. It's got that classic 70s style, a powerful engine, and a rare package that sets it apart from the crowd. If you're looking for a project car with tons of potential, this 1971 Ford Thunderbird could be your ticket to classic car heaven. Don't sleep on this one, folks. 20. We're diving into a real treat on Craigslist, a 1984 Chevrolet El Camino that's up for grabs at $14,000. Let me tell you, this isn't just any El Camino. This is a family heirloom with a story to tell. This beauty has only 87,653 original miles on the clock, which is incredibly low for a vehicle of this age. The reason? It belonged to the seller's grandfather, who treated this El Camino like royalty. He changed the oil religiously every 3 months or 3,000 miles and kept meticulous maintenance records. Talk about a well-cared-for vehicle. Under the hood, you've got the original 305 V8 engine paired with a TH350 transmission. This combination is known for its reliability and smooth power delivery. The seller describes it as a clean, original survivor, and I've got to say, it sounds like they're not exaggerating. Now, let's talk about the condition. The seller has gone above and beyond to ensure this El Camino is in top shape. They've replaced a laundry list of parts including new tires, ball joints, brakes, shocks, radiator, belts, hoses, battery, spark plugs, wires, distributor, and window seals. They've even installed a new exhaust system with true duals and an X-pipe. That's going to sound sweet. The only minor issue mentioned is that the AC needs to be charged. But honestly, for a car that's nearly 40 years old, that's a small price to pay for such a well-maintained vehicle. Finished in a sleek gray, this El Camino is a perfect blend of classic style and practical utility. It's a car-truck hybrid that turns heads wherever it goes, and with its excellent condition, it's ready to hit the road right away. If you're in the market for a classic vehicle that's been lovingly maintained and is ready to roll, this 1984 Chevrolet El Camino could be your dream come true. It's not just a vehicle, it's a piece of family history that's looking for its next caretaker. Don't miss out on this opportunity to own a true survivor in excellent condition.